If you've ever had a year where sales went up, but cash was still tight, you're not doing something wrong. You're missing one piece of information. Hey, I'm Jeanette with QB Winery Solutions, and in the next 6 minutes, I'm going to show you exactly what that is and how to find it in QuickBooks. Now, most small winery owners I work with are working incredibly hard. The wine's great, customers love it, but at the end of the year, the cash just isn't there. And the instinct, completely understandable, is to push for more sales, more distribution, more accounts, more volume. But here's the thing. If you don't know which sales are actually profitable, growing your sales can make the problem worse, not better. And that's what we're going to look at today. Now, a winery I worked with a few years ago wanted to grow the way he thought wineries were supposed to grow, through distribution. So the winemaker made a batch of sauvignon blanc to sell through distribution. It was a small first run, 500 cases. He sold it all, and feeling encouraged, he doubled production the next year to 1,000 cases, and he sold all of that too. But here's the kicker. At the end of the second year, when we analyzed his numbers, he still wasn't making more money than the previous year. He fell into the trap of seeing short-term wins, loved seeing those checks come in from the distributor, but that didn't solve his long-term headache. But why? Because the Sauvignon Blanc had small winery craft level costs, lots of hands-on work, higher per case expenses, slim margins. And the spiffs he paid distributors, travel costs to meet out-of-state buyers, and all the effort to promote that Sauvignon Blanc, and he was actually losing money on that wine. Meanwhile, he was distracted from the wines that really defined his brand, the Pinot Noirs that he was passionate about. He was filling the bucket, but the bucket had a hole. So let's head over to QuickBooks. And here in QuickBooks, I'm in my Heavenly Grape sample file. I've already pulled up a profit and loss report, and I'm displaying it by class. I've also filtered this just to show the income and the cost of goods, not the operating expenses, because I want to focus on the gross profit. Now, when the P&L is broken out by class, you can see the wine sales for each channel, the tasting room, distribution, wholesale, and below the revenue lines, you can see the cost of goods. And below that, you can then see the gross profit for each channel. This gives us the two pieces that we need, what each channel brought in and what it cost to make the wine that went out through it. Because it's this gross profit that matters. It's what you get to keep as opposed to the top line revenue. And we're going to export this to Excel in order to do some additional analysis, but I want to show you a CFO trick that I use in all the files that I set up. I'm going to go back to a regular P&L. So down here in this other income section, I've actually entered the number of cases of wine. Now I reverse this out, so this has no effect on the financials, but I have found that it's useful to have some non-financial metrics embedded in the QuickBooks file, because then when I export this to Excel, the numbers are showing up already. Here's my Excel. So here's my gross profit by class report in Excel. I've already cleaned it up and deleted some rows that were zeros. You can see the income in the COGS, and here's that number of cases sold by channel. I've also added some additional metrics. So I've got wine sales gross profit. That's going to be the wine sales minus the COGS. And again, it's this gross profit that's more important than top line revenue. Now, some other metrics that we're looking at is the average case sale. That's going to be your wine sales divided by the number of cases sold. Next, we have the average case sale. That's going to be the wine sale divided by the number of cases. And you can already see the pattern where the distribution wines have the lowest average case sale price and your DTC channels have the highest. Next, we have the average case COGS, which is cost of goods divided by the total number of cases, and then the gross profit, which is case sales minus the COGS, and then gross margin, which is gross profit divided by your average case sale. This tells us of how efficient each sale is. Gross profit tells you how much money you made off of each case. So you can see it's quite a significant amount in the DTC channels. Now, another way that I look at these numbers is to summarize this by trade and DTC. And here's what jumps out. So down here at the bottom, where you see the percentage of total cases, distribution is using up 81% of all of the cases that you've sold, but only generating 55% of the gross margin, whereas your DTC is using 19%, but is generating almost the same amount of gross profit as the trade channels. So let's look at a real decision. Our winemaker is thinking about making another 1,000 cases of Sauvignon Blanc to sell through distribution. So let's look at what that does to the numbers. So here's our what if. I'm going to add an additional 1,000 cases here to the trade. All these other metrics are going to stay the same. You can see that the revenue jumps $131,000 and the gross profit jumps $62,000. I mean, that's nice. But what if he put that same 1,000 cases into DTC instead? So if you put those 1,000 cases into DTC, his top line revenue would be $300,000 more, but his gross profit is almost $250,000. That's a significant increase. Same wine, same production cost, same 1,000 cases, but a completely different outcome because of the channel. And unlike the trade scenario, there's no commissions, no billbacks, no travel, no distributor relationship to manage. The margin you see here is much closer to what actually lands in the business. This gross profit that you see is just from the sale of the wine. This does not include those additional expenses that come off of the trade accounts. So this is what following the profit looks like in practice. It's not chasing volume. It's not adding distribution accounts simply because that's what the bigger wineries do. It's understanding exactly which sales are building your business and making decisions from there. And that is why we say that more sales won't fix this. Here's the mistake I see most often. Winery owners look at total revenue and feel good or bad based on that number alone. But revenue is not profit, and not all sales channels deliver the same margin. Remember, revenue and profit are not the same thing. The trap is growing the wrong channel because it feels like growth. More cases moved, more accounts, more presence in the market, but less cash at the end of the year. And if you don't have visibility into your margin by channel, you can't make this call. You're flying blind. And that's exactly why this analysis starts in QuickBooks, because your data is already there. You just need to have the right structure and know where to look. If you've watched this and thought, I'd love to run this report, but I'm not sure my QuickBooks is set up to show me this clearly, that's exactly why I created the Fundamental 5 course. It's a course built specifically for non-accounting folks who are doing the bookkeeping at small wineries, like the owners or the ubiquitous office manager. We walk you through how to set up QuickBooks so that your financials actually reflect how your winery operates, the channels, the classes, cost of goods, all of it. There's a link in the description if you want to take a look. In the next video, we're going to look at the chart of accounts, which is the foundation underneath everything we just talked about. But to run a clean sales by channel report, your chart of accounts has to be organized the right way. And most small wineries have inherited a setup that makes this harder than it needs to be. I'll show you what to look for and what to fix. That's coming up next. Thanks for watching. Cheers.